Welcome back to the deep dive. We're picking right up with the Atlas CMMS user guide.
Yep, ready to jump in.
And this time, our focus is really on that initial setup and configuration. We're talking pages 15 through 38.
Right. Think of this as the blueprint, setting up the skeleton of the system before you flesh it out.
Laying the groundwork so it works for you.
Exactly. This isn't just ticking boxes. It's about making Atlas CMMS fit your way of working. Getting this right at the start is, well, it's foundational.
So our goal today is to pull out the key nuggets from these pages, sort of a shortcut to understanding how to customize things right from the beginning.
Makes sense. Let's unpack it.
Okay, so we're moving past the general navigation tips from, what was it, page 14?
Yeah, around there. Now we're getting into the core admin stuff.
Yeah.
After that initial company setup, which the guide touches on earlier, the admin account is where, the real customization magic begins. Pages 15 to 38 really map this out.
It kicks off at the general settings right there on page 15.
That's right. Section 2.1.1 covers these. First up, language selection. The admin picks the default language for the whole company in Atlas.
Ah, okay, so everyone sees the same thing, language-wise. Consistency.
Precisely. Important for usability.
What else falls under these general settings?
Well, you've got settings for auto-assigning work orders, maybe back to the person who created the request.
Okay.
Or automatically assigning requests to whoever needs to approve them. Little things that help streamline the flow right away.
Right, cuts down on manual steps. I noticed the guide mentions notification settings here too that seemed pretty significant.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That gives admins quite a bit of control. You can tweak things like maybe stopping notifications for work orders once they're closed, or prompting users for feedback when a work order gets completed. This really impacts how your team communicates and, importantly, how you capture data about finished jobs.
So less noise, but also nudging people for useful feedback. Good balance. What about the cost tracking configuration?
Page 18 gets into that. Admins decide if labor costs should be included in the total WO cost.
Okay.
And also whether the original requester should get updates on the work order's progress. It's all about getting comprehensive cost tracking and, giving the right visibility to the right people.
Full picture on costs and keeping relevant folks in the loop. And there was something specific for the mobile app users.
Yes. The Simplify Work Orders in the mobile app option basically lets the admin trim down the detail field text see on their phones or tablets.
Ah, optimizing for field work.
Exactly. Can make a real difference to their efficiency out there.
So pulling it all together, spending time on these general settings up front, means you can really shape Atlas CMMS to fit your organization's processes from day one. It's about personalization.
Absolutely. It sets the stage. Now, moving on to work order settings, pages 18, 19. This is about configuring the form itself.
The actual form someone fills out when they create a work order.
Precisely. The admin gets to decide which fields, like, say, the description, priority, the asset involved, who it's assigned to, due date, stuff like that, are optional, hidden, or actually required.
That seems powerful. You can make sure you get the essential info without forcing people to fill out endless boxes.
That's the goal. Capture what's critical, but keep it efficient.
Makes sense. And what about the other end, configuring what happens when a work order is completed?
Right. Pages 18, 19 cover that too. It defines what info needs to be logged when the job's done. So technicians or supervisors might upload files, reports, maybe photos.
Okay.
They'd add descriptions of the tasks they performed, log how much time each took, record the total labor time, and specify any parts they use from inventory, including quantities.
Getting all that detail down is crucial for history, analysis, inventory, all that good stuff.
Definitely.
Okay, next up in the guide, checklists, pages 19 to 24.
Checklists. Yeah, these are really valuable tools in a CMMS. They're huge for standardization, for compliance, reducing human error.
How do they help with that?
Well, they break down jobs into clear steps. The guide shows admins create them by adding tasks, using a plus task button. Pretty straightforward.
And capturing the info from those tasks, how does that work? Looks like there are different ways.
Yes, the data collection methods are key. You can set up tasks to capture info using just a simple subtask status open, in progress, complete, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Or a text field for notes, like observations on wear and tear,
Right.
a number field for measurements, record pressure reading here, or just a simple inspection check, like a pass-fail thermostat operating correctly, yes, no.
And you can mix these up in one checklist.
Absolutely. Mix and match to get exactly the data you need for that specific procedure.
That flexibility sounds great. The guide also mentioned nesting checklists.
It did, yeah. That's a neat feature. You can have a main parent checklist, maybe a monthly HVAC inspection that includes smaller child checklists like filter checks or coil cleaning.
Ah, like layers of detail for bigger jobs.
Perfect for breaking down complex processes.
Can you get even more granular, like assigning specific steps within a checklist to someone or something?
You can. There's a little three-dot icon next to each task. From there, admins can choose Assign User or Assign Asset.
Give us an example.
Sure. So maybe within that monthly inspection, you assign the specific lubrication task to your lubrication specialist technician.
Got it.
Or you could link an engine component check task directly to the specific engine asset record in the system. It helps route tasks efficiently and ties the checklist data directly to the relevant asset for better reporting down the line.
Super useful for workflow and keeping track of asset history, and you can see what it looks like before you save it.
Yep, there's a preview button. Shows you a read-only version so you can check the flow, the wording, make sure it all makes sense before it goes live. Really handy for catching mistakes.
Good practice. And I assume you can edit or delete checklists later if needed.
Of course. The real value here for you, the listener, is how checklists drive that standardization, help with compliance, cut down errors, and just build consistency into your maintenance.
Okay, solid points. Now let's shift to who can do what. Role setting pages 24-25.
Right. We touched on roles like admin, technician, requester before, but these pages highlight that admins can actually define and really customize these roles through the roles management screen.
And why is that customization so important?
It boils down to role-based access control, or RBAC. It's fundamental, really. RBAC lets admins ensure every user has only the access they need for their job. No more, no less. Which is, critical for security and any compliance rules you might need to follow.
Right, the principle of least privilege. Makes perfect sense. Okay, moving on to organizing all the data. Categories configuration, pages 25 through 31. This looks like a big section.
It is, and it's crucial for organization. Categories are how you group and classify information, work orders, assets, you name it. This makes managing things, searching, analyzing, reporting, all that much, much easier.
But you need good categories to start with, right?
Absolutely. The guide stresses setting up relevant categories that match how you work, and then, just as important, training the team to use them consistently.
Garbage in, garbage out other way.
Exactly. So the guide walks through a few key areas you can set up categories for.
Like?
Work order categories. Classifying tasks, right?
Yeah.
Like preventive, corrective, predictive, inspection, calibration are the examples given. This helps with prioritizing work, allocating resources, tracking effort.
Okay, what else?
Asset categories.
Yes, sir.
Organizing your equipment. Things like buildings, HVAC systems, production machinery, utility systems, vital for planning maintenance, managing inventory linked to assets, tracking life cycles. Meter categories. For classifying gauges or sensors you track, temperature, pressure, flow, vibration, electrical readings. Helps you analyze condition data, which feeds into predictive maintenance.
Right.
And timer categories. Tracking time spent on specific activities within a work order, like response time, wrench time, that's actual hands-on work. Diagnosis time, admin time, super useful for planning, cost analysis, finding bottlenecks.
Wow, that's a lot of organizational power. How do you actually manage them in the system? Add new ones, change them?
Pretty standard interface stuff. You can delete old ones, modify names or descriptions, and add new ones using a plus category item button in each section. When adding, you give it a name, which is required, and optionally, a description.
So this really lets you customize how your operation is structured in the system. You can create categories that perfectly match your unique workflows, like specific types of production lines or safety-related work orders.
Precisely. It's about making this system reflect your reality.
Okay, next up, people and teams configuration. Pages 31 and 34. Looks like teams are on page 34 specifically.
Right. Teams are important for collaboration, especially on bigger tasks or projects involving multiple people. Well, they help streamline things, because you can assign work to a whole team instead of just one person. Helps with accountability, too, for group efforts. You can see existing teams, who's in them, and use the plus team button to create new ones.
Organizing your staff into functional groups makes sense. What about external help? Vendors and contractors, pages 35 to 37.
Yeah, this part is all about managing those external service providers. You navigate to vendors and contractors to see who you've already got listed, usually in a table with their name, contact info, maybe their rates, things like that. And you can edit their records too.
And adding new ones.
Page 36 shows adding a new vendor with the plus vendors button. It brings up a form for company details, contact info, type, rate. Page 37 covers adding a contractor similar process. You hit plus contractor on the contractor tab, but that form also has a specific spot for billing information.
Good to have all that info in one place. Okay, we're nearing the end of this section. Page 38 introduces locations management. Just an intro, it seems.
Yeah, it just kicks off this major topic. It defines locations as representing your physical layout within the CMMS.
So mapping out your buildings, floors, areas.
Exactly. And the really key concept introduced here is the parent location, child location hierarchy.
Okay, tell me more about that hierarchy.
So parent locations are the big, broad areas, like a whole plant or a campus or a main building.
Right.
Child locations are the more specific places inside those parents, like individual rooms, production lines, floors, maybe specific outdoor zones. And you can have multiple levels, like a tree.
Can you give those examples from the guide again? They were helpful.
Sure. One was a university campus as the parent. Children could be the science building or the library. Then inside the science building, you might have grandchildren like Lab 101 or Lecture Hall 2.
Okay, got it.
Another was a manufacturing plant as parent, with children like assembly line or warehouse. And maybe the shipping dock as a grandchild inside the warehouse.
Okay, I see how that works. It's like the digital map of your facility. Why is getting this hierarchy right so important for you, the user?
It's critical because it lets your team pinpoint exactly where work needs to happen, or where a specific asset is physically located, or maybe where parts are stored. That level of detail is huge for accuracy and logging work, sending people to the right spot efficiently, and enabling location-based reporting. It really underpins operational clarity.
Makes total sense. Accuracy and efficiency. And that brings us to the end of page 38 in our deep dive for today.
Yeah, we covered a lot there. From those initial general settings, configuring work orders and checklists, defining roles with RBAC, setting up all those categories, managing people and teams, vendors, contractors, and finally, that intro to the crucial location hierarchy.
It really underscores how getting this initial setup phase right isn't just admin work, it's fundamental. It shapes how the entire system will work for you and how effective it will be in streamlining your maintenance ops.
You really need to think carefully up front about your current processes and how you want them to work better using the system.
Absolutely. So here's something to chew on as you think about applying this. Consider how the specific way you decide to define something like a high priority work order or how you structure your asset categories right now. How will those choices directly ripple through your workflows, your team's priorities, and the accuracy of your reports later on? What parts of your current operation need the most thoughtful setup in this phase to really unlock the power of Atlas CMMS?